Welcome to my Bilderberg Secrets for 2023. Say hi, Princess Grace. This is my new Cavachon. She's half Cavalier King Charles Spaniel and half Bichon. This video is filmed for my viewers in 168 countries around the globe. I'm Sandra Rupp. I was placed on the Thinkers 50 radar list for the world's top business thinkers. It's a meeting of billionaires, CEOs of usually very large corporations, Europeans, people from the United States, as well as people from Canada. So she's English and French, which is very appropriate for Bilderberg. And she just got the most beautiful dog collar. It actually has pearls and diamonds, faux diamonds, of course. And it's from a friend of mine who lives in Aspen, Colorado. The hotel is completely shut down when Bilderberg is on. Henry Kissinger arrives with this team of people, including a heart, in case he needs a heart. He's 100 years old this year. So he's traveling with a team. They actually dressed better than a lot of the Bilderberg attendees. I will say that a lot of these attendees who arrived at the airport looked very sloppy. They stay at, beautiful hotels. In this case, it's a palace in Lisbon. And they have very private meetings. We do get the list of topics, and we do get the list of attendees, which I have today. I'm going to go over it with my personal thoughts, having followed this conference since 2015. You can also contact me on LinkedIn for executive coaching, and please stay tuned. Bilderberg as a conference is usually about 130 people, which is what it is this year. The CEOs that I saw on this list from the United States primarily were Pfizer, Goldman Sachs, the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, is there. He was there previously. We also have the former CEO of Google, Eric Schmidt, there. He is on the Bilderberg steering committee. Some say that he may inherit the role that Kissinger has had. It'll be interesting to see. It may be Henri de Castries. I think it'll probably be a whole group of people. I don't think Bilderberg is run by one person alone. Henry Kravis, of course, and Marie-Jose Kravis, his wife, he's co-chair of KKR, and she is chair of the Museum of Modern Art. If I'm not mistaken, they may have even met at Bilderberg. And as I've told you before, there are marriages made at Bilderberg. I believe Linda Rothschild met her husband at Bilderberg. I've seen this quite a lot, actually, which I find kind of interesting. I am on the market, by the way. If any of you Bilderberg men are looking for an attractive, intelligent wife, yes, marriage still is in style. Okay. And I would like to attend, so if you can get me an invite next year, please let me know. You'd have to have the meeting in Florida because I don't like to travel too much. So it's sort of the usual suspects, if you will. And then there is another interesting name here, which is the gentleman who heads up the S&P. Some tech crowd people, some entrepreneurial. They have quite a few academics there. And this year I noticed they have a large percentage of government employees as well as politicians. Not politicians, however, from the United States. I could only find one who lost her election, and that was Stacey Abrams, who's back at Bilderberg. But I just find it very curious why there wasn't another politician from the U.S. there, because they usually have someone who's going to be installed as a candidate in the future, whether it be a governor from a state. It wouldn't surprise me if Ron DeSantis was invited and turned down the invitation. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Now, there was someone who showed up for the meeting just for 2 hours on the last day, and we don't think that he or she was on the list. And I'm trying to find out who that was. So if I find out, I will let you know. Someone did show up that we don't have on the list, and we need to know who that is. A lot of Americans and Europeans are very upset with people like Klaus Schwab at Davos. Borge Brenda is at this meeting, who's the president of World Economic Forum. They're all linked, the Bilderbergers, the Davos men, the Council on Foreign Relations. And I think that there's a feeling that there's this big left-wing agenda even though not everyone invited to Bilderberg is left-wing, there seems to be a push for what is called globalization and a one-world government, which most people that I know here in the happiest, healthiest city in the USA do not want. Yes, we have our share of corporate CEOs, retired corporate CEOs. We have quite a few of those. But we have a lot of people who owned their own businesses and were successful through small and medium-sized companies. I know we go by Chatham House rules, so we have to be careful not to have attribution that so-and-so said something, but we can talk in general terms about the topics, and those are even published by the Bilderberg Steering Committee. So let's go right to the topics so we know what we're talking about today. Okay, the topics for 2023 at Bilderberg, which is being held in Lisbon, Portugal, are AI, artificial intelligence, the banking system, China, energy transition, Europe, fiscal challenges, India, industrial policy and trade, NATO, Russia, transnational threats, Ukraine, and U.S. leadership. Now, I want to point out something that most people may not catch on to, but I did right away. This list of topics for the first time is being published in alphabetical order. So in the past, they published topics based on number 1, number 2, number 3. This is in alphabetical order, so we don't know that this is the order that they're going to be discussing these topics. May not seem like a big deal to a lot of people, but it is to me. As an executive coach, I notice things like this. And in the past, as I said, there was quite a bit more information when you looked at the order of the topics, and now they're actually making it a little bit less transparent by not giving us the order of the topics. I doubt they were discussed in alphabetical order, but that is one question that I have for the participants. Watch out, because you've got a lot of geeky STEM majors on this list too. We had Alex Karp running around in his jogging shorts, like waving as if he was doing a big wave to a crowd of people. There were only 2 journalists out there, watching him, because it was so secretive where Bilderberg was going to be this year that they didn't announce where it was until the day of. So the only journalists that found it are ones that have been filming it for many, many years. And so Dan Dix did a great job from Press for Truth in Canada. He found out where it was. He was there. We also had Josh Friedman, who's from Bulgaria. Freeman reporter, he's on Twitter. He did a great job. They worked together. And then, of course, Charlie Skelton was there from Great Britain. He writes an article for The Guardian. And then I did see one article in CNBC, which was interesting to see because normally you don't see that. But they did an article on Bilderberg this year. And then I also saw one in the Daily Mail. So you can go to my Twitter feed for all the articles on Bilderberg. I also retweeted a lot of the interesting pictures of who was there and videos that Dan did, and the dinner party, and a lot of interesting insights there, just in terms of like watching how secretive it is. And okay, here's another name I know. Matthias Döpfner is the CEO of Axel Springer. Now, he was actually filmed by Dan Dix outside of the meeting, and he said that he thought the fact that it was secretive was a good thing because they could talk about more items. And, he was saying that, he goes to a lot of meetings like this. Well, let me tell you something, Matthias. I am not a fan of secrecy. In fact, I believe that this meeting should not have Chatham House rule anymore, because I think there's way too much secret activity going on at this meeting. You're discussing topics that impact everyone on this planet. And it's really important that we allow all journalists into this meeting. I invite you to come on to my show. We can interview remotely or in person right here in Florida. And I would love to talk about what we can talk about. Someone joked on my Twitter feed that Elon Musk wasn't invited because he'd be tweeting about the topics. I wish he were invited, because I think it'd be a great addition for Elon to be there and to tweet about what they're talking about. And I hope that's the direction that Bilderberg will go. So the topics, I would say, are somewhat similar to last year. The Bilderberg of 2022 was held in Washington, D.C. It actually rotates between Europe and then what they call North America or USA. They do invite editor-in-chiefs of some of the largest financial media outlets. As an example, my colleagues at the Financial Times, a couple of them are invited this year, and they usually have Martin Wolf, or in this case it's Gideon, but and another lady from China. But their point is that they like to include people from the Financial Times. They also include the editor-in-chief of The Economist, oftentimes. She had studied at Oxford and Harvard, Zanny. She's often there. And she has, obviously a lot of access to these billionaires and CEOs about what's going on. It does make me a little bit concerned that they only invite certain publications. I think that it should be more transparent in terms of being open to a lot of different types of journalists. They invite Bloomberg as an example and some of the local people in Europe, but I really feel that they need to have a broader invitation list for the media. If you're going to invite the media, it should be a combination of people, not all just from approved outlets that they're comfortable talking to. But a journalist's job is not to conceal what's going on, it's to report what's going on. And how can they do that when they're under Chatham House rules? I mean, I hope one day that is eliminated at Bilderberg. Special advisor to the board of Shell is there. He's from the Netherlands. Lots of Netherlands. As you know, the King of the Netherlands is sometimes there. I didn't see him on the list so far, but I'll keep checking. The Vice President of the European Commission, and a lot of the EU is created by the people at Bilderberg, so that is not a surprise. Anna Botan is there again. She's the chair of Banco Santander. The CEO of AXA, the current CEO, is there, as well as the former CEO. So we've got Thomas Burbel, current CEO, and then we have Henri de Castries, the prior CEO. You know, AXA is very interconnected. It's a big French insurance company. It's very connected to Goldman Sachs. In fact, one of my friends was going into a meeting with Henri, and coming out of the meeting was Lloyd Blankfein. So this is just a little insight there. Okay. The former director of the National Economic Council, Brian Deese, is there. We have the president of Eurogroup, Pascal Donahue. Okay, this is a name you're going to know. Ken Griffin, the founder and CEO of Citadel, is there. Now, this is interesting as it relates to U.S. leadership, which is a topic here, because he has been considering backing Governor Ron DeSantis for president. I've told Ron that I don't think that he should run against Trump for two reasons. Number one is this is Trump's turn. I don't think that, we need Ron in Florida. So as our governor, I would like to see Ron stay as governor, and I would like to see Trump be the next president. That's my opinion. I'm running with it. I believe that Trump deserves an opportunity to get back into office. I think that even if Ron does run, that Trump will be the nominee. So I don't think it's worth damaging Ron's career over this. And also the fact that Ken Griffin is at Bilderberg doesn't make Ron look good, because Ron DeSantis is very anti-globalism, anti-Davos. He's spoken out against Davos. I don't think he should be backed by someone who's attending Bilderberg. So I think Ron really needs to reconsider that move. And we'll see if he takes my advice on that one. I know it's possible he may announce, but I don't know how far he's going to go this time. Like him a lot, like his wife a lot. And I do believe that he will be president someday, but not this time around. Okay. Anne Applebaum is a journalist who's often there. This time she's writing for The Atlantic, and she's been invited back. The president of the European Parliament is there, Roberta Metsola. The editor-in-chief of Bloomberg is there, John McElwaite. One thing that I noticed, which is, I think, a really interesting insight, is there are not that many American CEOs this year. I think that CEOs in the United States, especially U.S. born, are staying away from conferences like Bilderberg, World Economic Forum at Davos. We're going to see a huge pushback. The CEO of Heineken is there, which I found sort of odd, from the Netherlands. So when we get down to the topics, you wonder, like, why are certain people there? And then why are other people not there? And I think a lot of American CEOs truly are distancing themselves from these conferences like Bilderberg, like Davos. And after, I had recorded a video after World Economic Forum this year saying I wouldn't go to Davos if they paid me $1 million. If they paid me, I wouldn't go. Normally you have to pay your $50,000 to $100,000 to go. I wouldn't go if they paid me to go, because I don't believe in Klaus Schwab's mission. I don't believe in communism. I don't believe in stealing elections. I don't believe in vaccine passports and social credit scores and controlling people. And he's talked about the microchips on French TV. These are not conspiracy theories. This is what is really going on at these conferences. I believe that it's important for capitalism to thrive in a way that many people can be successful. And I don't think that big corporations see the value in women. I think they're actually doing a lot of negative things, favoring transgender and LGBT over women in general. You'll see a real push at these conferences to invite younger women. And so you even see that in the prime ministers that they're choosing. Klaus Schwab at Davos had called it penetrating the governments, which I just hate that word. It's so predatory. But he talked about how they're getting, their young global leaders into prime minister roles. It's both young men and young women. In the case of Trudeau, as he points out, or you could say in the case of Macron, Rishi Sunak. These are all people that are really, in my view, World Economic Forum puppets, if you will. Now, at this meeting, you saw the youngest prime minister Denmark has ever had, a female, and she arrived at the meeting. She's in her 40s, again, someone that I think they've groomed for this role, because they can push these women around. They've groomed them into global communism. The Paris Accord is not necessarily about the environment. It's actually about power, control, and money. And they want to centralize that into a communist system. So for any of you who don't get that, please get that, because the next election is so important that you understand that conservatives were the first to care about the environment. We need to make sure that we understand that not everything you hear on big media is the truth. In fact, a lot of it is propaganda. And I know that because I have family that ran the media, and it went from, many, many owners down to 6 run by left-wing CEOs. So when you are even listening to a local station, they're being fed news from the New York office, as an example. And a lot of it has become propaganda. Because last year it was geopolitical realignments, NATO, China, Indo-Pacific realignment, energy security and sustainability, Russia, continuity of government and the economy. Listen very carefully to this. Continuity of government and the economy. Disruption of the global financial system. Okay, so it's almost like they were predicting the future now with this banking crisis, isn't it? So that makes me a little bit suspect of what's going on, and it makes you wonder what's a planned event in this banking world. I have my own theories on that. I believe they're trying to take down a lot of the US banks so that they can consolidate into the big 6 and then introduce a central bank digital currency. I don't think a lot of Americans are going to go for a cashless society, and we don't want the vaccine passports or any sort of social credit system like China. It will never work in the United States, I assure you. So I think that we have to be very careful with what these Bilderbergers are up to on the financial system and the banking system. We need to watch that carefully, and that's really to my viewers out there who are watching. The other topics last year, disinformation. Okay, you can kind of define that a couple of different ways depending upon what side of the political spectrum you're on. Sino-US tech competition, Post-pandemic health, fragmentation of democratic societies, trade, and deglobalization. So when they talk about post-pandemic health, I'll tell you, guess who's at the meeting this year? And it kind of surprised me, actually. The CEO of Pfizer, Albert Bourla, he's actually a Greek veterinarian and has made quite a bit of money in this COVID pandemic. But there's a lot of questions around his vaccine, which wasn't truly a vaccine in the sense that it didn't stop transmission of the virus. And in many cases, I'm seeing reports that people are more likely to get COVID if they had the shots. And so, I made the right decision. I never got the shots. I'm someone who works from home. I'm more introverted. I'm not around a lot of people. And I felt that it was not in my best interest to take a chance on a shot that had not been tested in clinical trials over the course of many years. So I'm happy with my decision on that. But in any case, when you look at the CEOs who are attending this year, let's get to the attendee list because that's really important. The chair of the Global Advisory Board of Deutsche Bank is there, Paul Ashleitner. The CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman, that name will mean something to quite a few of you, and you can look up the article there in Daily Mail and CNBC about Sam Altman and what he's up to on artificial intelligence. I'm sure he had something to say about that topic. We also have a number of leaders of Social Democratic Party in Europe. I'm not going to go through all the names. The chair of International Advisors for Goldman Sachs, based in Puerto Rico, Jose Manuel Barroso, is there. We have the Minister for Transport from France, Clement Beaune. The professor of energy, science, and engineering from Stanford University, Sally Benson, is there. I pushed for a lot more women at Bilderberg, and they have listened to me. In fact, they even say now on their website that this is a diverse list, including age ranges as well as gender. They specifically mentioned that. And I had pushed for more women to be invited because it was a really small group before. So I do make progress in some ways. Patricia Barbizet is there. Now, she actually used to be the CEO of Christie's auction house, and then she worked for the Pinol, Henri Pinol family, his group Artemis. And now I noticed Patricia Barbizet has a new position, which is chair and CEO of Tamaris and Associates. Okay, keep going. The director of cybersecurity and infrastructure security is there from the US, Jen Easterly. We have the senior advisor for China from the Department of Commerce there, Elizabeth Economy. That's an interesting name for a last name. We have, I'm going to try and go through this a little bit more quickly. We have a CEO from Norway there. Neil Ferguson from Stanford is back. The Prime Minister of Denmark, I told you about her. She's the youngest Prime Minister they've ever had. Deputy Prime Minister of Canada, Chrystia Freeland, is there. Now, a lot of people in Canada really dislike this woman, and they think that she's a Davos puppet, which, I mean, Klaus Schwab did brag about penetrating the Canadian government. So I think in that case, you could say that these people are right, that they should be concerned about a Davos puppet. I certainly am. The chair and CEO of Merck, based in Germany, is there. We also have the chair of AXA, so there's a lot of representation from AXA. The director of national intelligence is there, Avril Haines. We also have the CEO of DeepMind. I believe Demis Hassabis has been there before because that name sounds very familiar. We've got 2 more pages here of names. We'll go quickly. The defense editor of The Economist is there, along with the editor-in-chief, as I told you before. We also have The Minister of Finance of the Netherlands, along with the Prime Minister, as I told you, Alex Karp of Palantir is there, who is dressing a little bit sloppy, and he walked out with Peter Thiel. They must be buddies. Alex Karp, I believe, has called himself a socialist. And what I'd say to people like Alex Karp is, this whole tech crowd, they're young, they don't dress very well, they could button themselves up a little bit more for Bilderberg, used to be ties and suits. At least wear a navy blue blazer, find something in your closet. I'm not too impressed by the people in Silicon Valley right now, except for Elon Musk. I do like him. But the problem I have with the people in Silicon Valley is there's way too much homelessness in San Francisco. These big cities are pushing for open borders. They've got major problems, not even being able to feed their own homeless people. That's not how you run a country. And open borders are not safe for women and children. And socialism does not work for everyone, because countries that are socialist eventually run out of money. You can look at Venezuela, Alex. He needs an executive coach, that's for sure. Okay. Gary Kasparov is the chair of Renewed Democracy, but really what Gary Kasparov is known for is being a Russian-born chess champion. He had the title for the longest time period of anyone. And I find it interesting that a chess player is there. There are a couple of Russian people here on the list, and Russian-born, I should say. But he's a chess player. I believe Peter Thiel is a chess player. He strikes me that he would be. A lot of intelligent people do go to Bilderberg, I will say that. Okay. Warner Brothers Discovery Poland managing director is there. Henry Kissinger, of course, is there. He pretty much is, he's been there probably since the beginning. Just remembering those pictures of Henry Kissinger from the past at other Bilderberg meetings. He's a real fixture there. Then we have the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Ukraine is there. So we do have both Ukraine and Russia represented. We have the Shadow Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs of the House of Commons, David Lammy. There's been a lot of talk about him being there. You can read some of the articles online. The CEO of BP, British Petroleum, is there, Bernard Looney. We have another politician who failed, who's a woman who's there. And I wanted to make this note because I saw, why is Stacey Abrams the only politician from the U.S., but she lost her election? And why is Sanna Marin there, the prime minister who just lost her election in Finland? Again, very young woman, I believe groomed as a Davos puppet. Perhaps Stacey is somewhat of a puppet of the Bilderberg Davos set, but she's now going into videos because she hasn't been able to win an election. We also have a global economist who is a member of the House of Lords. Dambisa Moyo is there. Now, she, I believe, is from Zambia originally. It's interesting that she's now in the House of Lords. Must have come about through her invitation at Bilderberg a couple of years ago. So, once you get invited to Bilderberg, anything goes. Congratulations, Dambisa Moyo. President of Mundy and Associates, Craig Mundy, is there. He's from Seattle, and he used to, I believe he still consults to Microsoft. Satya Nadella is there at Microsoft, the CEO, born in India, I believe. Is that right, Satya? A lot of the CEOs, today that go to these Bilderberg meetings are foreign-born. So I find that interesting too. Whereas the American-born CEOs are kind of not showing up. I don't know if they're not invited or they turn down the invites, but I'd love to know the answer to that one. Okay, let's keep going. We have one more page. All right. We have the mayor of Le Havre there, Edouard Philippe from France. They often do invite mayors of big cities. I think that there's sort of this UN push to install mayors. We're seeing that in the United States. Mayors popping up, coming from other places and becoming mayors. So that's kind of a trend you want to keep an eye on in your local politics. Be careful who your mayors are. You don't want them run or controlled by the United Nations. Let's put it that way. All right. Next, we have Gideon Rachman, the Chief Foreign Officers Commentator from the Financial Times. Be happy to interview you, Gideon, about your experience at Bilderberg. Chatham House rules, of course. Be happy to talk in generalities. You can do that right here on my channel on YouTube. And we have, next up, we have the European Commissioner for Justice, Didier Reynders, the Prime Minister of Mark Rutte of the Netherlands. I mentioned him. Not my favorite person. You know, if he's anything like his former boss, Paul Polman, he's a communist. I knew his CEO of Unilever, Paul Polman, very well over the course of a number of years. And basically, Mark Rutte is another Davos puppet. He's trying to steal the land from the Dutch farmers. The Netherlands is the second largest agricultural producer behind the United States. And so watch out for these Davos men, because they're after your land, your property, they're after your money. They want to eliminate cash and take over your banking. Well, what if they don't like where you're going to shop or what you say on social media? They could take it all away. So be very careful what you wish for, because these men are very dangerous. You can watch my other videos about Unilever to find out more about that. I did notice their CEO actually is changing once again, because I don't think their Go Woke program is working well. I think what's happening is what we're seeing, you know, whether it's Bud Light one day or Target or Disney, or in this case Unilever, go woke, go broke is kind of what happens. So I don't think that companies should be going woke. I don't think it's a good strategy at all. And I think that we're seeing a lot of pushback from the consumers. And I think that's important, because corporations should not be deciding social issues. I've been saying that to male CEOs for over a decade now. They often don't have good choices in their own life, let alone dictating to others. A lot of the CEOs have been compromised by Epstein. A lot of them are controlled. We're finding out more and more about that. We'll be finding out more as time comes and goes along. There are a lot of dangerous CEOs out there whose strings are being pulled by people like George Soros, BlackRock. You need to be very careful where you get your information. And remember, it's not from big media. It's not from big corporations. You need to really do your homework to get real insights about what's really going on. In addition, we have some other members of parliament there. This one's interesting. Radoslaw Sikorski from Poland. And you may recall his tweet, his famous tweet that has since been deleted, where he said, "Thank you, USA." I think you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Okay. Since deleted. In addition, we have the Secretary General of NATO there. NATO is always represented. That's been a big topic through the last few Bilderbergs. They didn't have Bilderberg during COVID, but certainly 2022 and then the one before COVID, we often see NATO present. The Tata Chair for Strategic Affairs Carnegie Endowment there, Ashley Tellis. We have Peter Thiel there, President of Thiel Capital. And we have a professor of East Asian languages and literature from Yale, Ying Su. And we have the chair of Prudential based in Great Britain, Shriti Videra. We have John Waldron, the president and CEO of Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is always represented at Bilderberg, as is AXA. And we have Peter Wenink, ASML Holdings. I want to look him up because that's based in the Netherlands. And we have Thomas Wright on the National Security Strategy Council there, and Daniel Yerg, Vice Chair of S&P Global. It's important that we follow not only where these people are from, but why they're on the list, what topic they're going to be participating in. And then it's really important that we get them to come right here on camera to tell us in person what went down at Bilderberg 2023. So it just took place the last 3 days. I wanted to get this video out right away. But in the meantime, I'm going to take calls and LinkedIn messages from people who have attended Bilderberg so that I can get some of them on camera, and we'll have a lot more to share with the world, which I think is the direction that Bilderberg should head. So I want to thank everyone for watching. Thank you so much to all my Bilderbergers. I'm not sure that I would want to attend anymore, but I certainly would consider an invitation from Bilderberg. I'm done with World Economic Forum. I mean, it's too cold, too big, and but this is 130 people. That's more manageable type conference. I mean, it could be a lot of fun, actually. And I do like bridge. I'm a big bridge player, so I probably could learn chess if I have to, but I'm very strategic when it comes to conversation and decision making. And I guess, the reason that I cover Bilderberg and the reason that I'm interested in it is because I care about this country, the United States. I don't want to see it hurt by globalism. One of my observations is only a third of the people on this list are from the United States, 2/3 are from Europe. So this conference definitely has more of a European slant to it. England has often, Great Britain has often remained separate from the rest of Europe too, through Brexit, and the United States is a very independent country. It's important that we all maintain our individuality. And my ancestors left the Netherlands and the UK on the Mayflower for coming to what eventually became the United States of America. The Mayflower voyage was a very scary voyage, but 4 of my ancestors were on that ship, and he was the Reverend, and I'm very proud of that. So I hope that I bring some spirituality with me to Bilderberg, and I hope that the Bilderbergers will consider opening up more to the people of the world who are interested in this conference. We would like to propose some questions to Bilderberg, and perhaps I could film those questions and get the answers, and we could even publish that on the Bilderberg meeting website, get the coverage a little bit more complete. Right now, there's too much secrecy. I think everyone agrees with that, even the attendees. Well, maybe not Matthias, but the rest of you, I think, would agree with that, a lot of you anyway. And I think that rather than have only a handful of media there, we should have independent journalists like myself being able to interview people and get answers to our questions. Our questions may be different than what The Economist or Bloomberg have to say, or the Financial Times even. We want to make sure that we get the questions answered of women who are concerned about open borders for themselves and for their children. We want to make sure that we understand the investment in female entrepreneurs. We want to make sure this isn't just about big corporations. And we just want to make sure it's not about power, money, and control, because people in relationships are what a lot of women are interested in. And I think it's important that we understand that diversity of thought is really important on a team. So if you have too many people thinking alike, I call it sameness thinking, you're not going to get the best answers. It's so important that you have diversity of political thought on your teams, as well as gender, different age groups, and people that don't all think the same. So if you find yourself on a team where you're trying to push other people to think like you, you're making a big mistake, because you're providing a disservice to your team. It's very important that people feel comfortable expressing their points of view, that all voices are heard, because sometimes that quiet voice in the back is the one with the answer. So I hope this has been helpful. I'm excited to follow Bilderberg once again. It's Bilderberg 2023. Welcome to Bilderberg Secrets. I'm Sandra Rupp. We have viewers in 168 countries. I was placed on the Thinkers 50 radar list for the world's top business thinkers. Subscribe to my channel on YouTube. You can also follow my tweets at Exec Career Coach on Twitter. You can email me on LinkedIn, message me. I look forward to hearing from anyone who may be in search of a top female executive coach. And if you enjoy my Bilderberg Secrets coverage, please consider a donation at patreon.com. Leadership can look like this. I'm an anchor and executive coach, and I would be happy to talk to any of you more about Bilderberg. Stay tuned, and thanks for watching.